Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dal. Shadowlands as an expansion was promised to be an alt-friendly experience, and while I personally, in comparison to Battle for Azeroth, and having a much easier time maintaining my alts, I think a lot of us can agree it could be a lot better. It could be a lot more alt-friendly, and I wanted to kind of break down every single aspect of the game, every single system, discuss all the endgame content, and try to tear it down into the most friendliest thing for alts, as well as hopefully open up a conversation about what is alt friendliness and how can they be achieved, especially when you're talking about playing on different characters but doing the same content that your main might have already done. And after identifying exactly what alt friendliness is, how can this definition be applied towards different systems, different content, and especially the prerequisites before the character can actually feel playable. If you guys are watching these videos and enjoying them but are not subscribed, then you should hit subscribe, hit the bell, helps out the channel tremendously. The idea of something being alt-friendly means being able to hop in on your alt character and do that endgame content as soon as possible. For me, alt-friendliness generally means the ability for your main to do X activity or Y activity, have some kind of central progression system, and then if you wanted to hop on an alt character, to be able to catch up to where that main character is, but also given the possibility to take over from where the main is, where the progression for your main character applies for your alts, so a lot of the prerequisites, the grind, the important stuff, the important bits is done once, where the alts don't need to do the same grind, but can enjoy a lot of the fruits of that initial grind. Getting our alts up and running to catch up to our main starts in the leveling, which is where we'll start with this video. You first have to level your character, you have to hit max level. Technically you don't, you can just enjoy playing the character at low level if you want to, but the experience of low level character versus experience of a max level character, for a lot of people we can agree that the leveling sometimes is just a grind, it's a wait, it's just part of the process until we hit the max level, until we get to experience some of the end game content. So in my eyes, when we're trying to get alts up and running and playable, part of it will be to level them quicker. There's, I feel like, a pretty big want in the community to want to speed level our alts as fast as possible. Anywhere from level 10 to level 50, questing experience is generally enjoyable. You have a choice of any expansion you want to level through, and players can customize their own experience to be quick, or if anything, enjoyable with their own favorite expansion and favorite quest lines. Is the experience from 50 to 60 that seems a little bit slower in contrast. When one of the time walking events was up and it had a bugged amount of XP was rewarding players, we saw an uptick of players questing, which either says that players really want to quest, really want to get to max level as soon as possible, or probably what it says is the Shadowlands 50 to 60 questing is a tad slow. In order to get our alts up and running quicker, I think Shadowlands is at a point where, like the other expansions, after a bit of time, Blizzard reduced the amount of XP needed to quest in that expansion, but also gives you other bonuses to quest faster, and maybe Shadowlands is due for something like that. But I really do think they should maybe bring time walking events where you do get bonus XP, because those were really exciting. And if they are looking to increase the amount of XP for our alts so we can make them more playable, then I believe what they can also hit on is world quest, while in fate leveling, those are criminally low in terms of the amount of XP they gain and definitely could get adjusted. But after we're done leveling, there comes the Renown grind, as we get to choose our covenant. The Renown grind is something you do as you gear your character, and it's part of the progression system, and Blizzard did make some adjustments to the Renown and how we're going to get it in 9.1.5. However, I still feel like it couldn't be improved even more, because the whole point of this video is to rip all these systems down and make them as malleable and easy to get through as possible. Renown, in my opinion, would be the fastest way to get around by making it account wide. As in, let's say my rogue have worked towards 80 renown with vent tier, so now any alt to put into vent tier would probably start at 80 renown when they get there. Because I don't think renown grinding is really all that slow, especially if you do it on your main character, but just doing it on subsequent alts, especially if you want to play multiples of them and maybe even multiple covenants, that's just way too much work and way too time consuming. So I wonder if they maybe could make certain breakpoints where when you hit 40, 60, 80 renown with different covenants, your alts will just simply start at that renown level for the work your main has put in, but your alts get to benefit from the treasures and the rewards and the benefits of. Next, we'll talk about Corthia. However, you could substitute the name of Corthia for any other new zone if we are to get one in patch 9.2. Corthia right now is a central hub where you can get a lot of your catch-ups, a lot of the different end-game rewards that you will need for dungeons, raids, and PvP, as well as part of a gearing system with a variety of different vendors. But Corthia also opens up a slew of different grinds that your main character as well as your alt characters are going to have to pursue. First of all, the vendor in Corthia with the research. Once your character reaches rank research, you unlock a variety of different goodies and rewards that are all locked behind reputation. However, having this reputation not be account-wide, but rather per character, does make it a lot harder getting your alts up and running, since this is a central hub for a lot of the endgame activities. And I feel like once a main character reaches a certain reputation, your alt should also be able to benefit from the rewards of those reputation gains. Another bit of grind that exists in Corthia is, well, from the Sanctum of Domination raid. When you kill bosses, you get these shards, and these shards are kind of like these gems. They're domination gems that unlock specific set bonuses inside of the raid. It is a system that was added in 9.1 with the new raid, and because it's a system, I feel like when catching up your ults, because of the acquisition of the shards, it's kind of difficult. It could be made easier. It's a system where you have to have these shards to perform well inside of raids. The damage they provide and the effectiveness of your class is non-matchable. You need them, and since your ults haven't been inside of the raid farming the bosses, getting the shards becomes difficult, so I'm surprised that hasn't become something you just buy from the vendor. And I feel like this should be at least rank 1 version of this shard, so you can get a rank 1 gem bonus. Should be something that's on the vendor, should be something that's fairly easy to get. And hopefully that's a decent example of a system that was added for raid that's basically mandatory in order to be able to participate in the content and perform well, but also a system where the vendor and the reputation can be overhauled so it doesn't hurt alts, but rather helps you be able to play them. A way for your alts to catch up to where your main is with all these shards and all this reputation without completely having to punish the alt and making them regrind all this all over again. Dungeons. Not really anything to improve with the actual dungeon content. I kind of like a lot of the dungeons in Shadowlands as well as the Mythic Plus with a variety of the different seasonal affixes, and I wonder what kind of affixes we will get with the Season 3. For me, however, it will be the dungeon gear acquisition as well as upgrading that gear. It is pretty alt unfriendly. First of all, having to require every one of my alt characters their Mythic Plus score, which isn't transferable between main towards alts, makes it so you have to re-earn KSM on every one of your alts if you want to be able to use that Valor. Because the gear will only upgrade to a certain point with a set amount of Valor, but when you hit that cap and you don't have that score, it just will not be upgradable. I have so many alt characters that have a ton of Valor, but they can't use it because, well, I can't upgrade any of the gear any further than I have. And it just sits there, does nothing. I feel like this is a system that could have been changed where if, let's say, your main earned the KSM, they work towards KSM, and you want to play an alt character, you've already done the KSM grind, your alt should be able to benefit from it, in my opinion. But we could even improve the alt friendliness in the dungeon gearing department as well in order to be able to help them catch up to where your main is, like Valor and caps. Valor caps were important in order to limit the amount of growth that everybody had at the beginning, but we've been in this raid tier for quite a while, and for many the raid tier is over. Not for all, but for many, and it would make sense maybe to uncap Valor if, let's say, I want to just farm it on an alt character, and then if, let's say, the Mythic Plus score system of upgrading was removed, either for my alts or just completely removed, letting players grind out their gear if they want to, then there will be opportunity for players to just grind Valor if they choose. That's how they gear their character. Being able to commit time, but also get the gear if you find specific pieces that are beneficial for your character. There's even been ideas of maybe adding a Valor vendor where you can buy the very base version of certain dungeon pieces after the tier and the season has been out for a while. So if you want to catch up with your alts that do benefit greatly from certain best in slot dungeon items, they'd be able to just to buy them specifically and upgrade them with Valor if they wanted to catch up to where our mains is who've been grinding dungeons for loot for this long. PvP is another aspect that people dive into when it comes to endgame content, and there's a lot of suggestions on how to make PvP a little bit more alt friendly. When you dive into PvP, you need honor gear and conquest gear, and without versatility and item level, you are behind other players getting one-shotted pretty easily. Gear is very important in Shadowlands. and honor gear has a lot of honor ranks to get through. It's not enough to just buy that one piece of honor, but instead you need to upgrade it further with more honor. So it's a lot of battlegrounds, a little bit of a grind, and there's a lot of ideas of how to reduce that grind. One, reduce the amount of ranks that we have, or two, give them more honor every time you do PvP so you can get through these ranks quicker. Or a wild idea that's very popular in the forums right now that's got a lot of traction is, what if instead of having different ranks for honor and conquest gear, we just had one rank, one set of honor, one set of conquest, and even removing any kind of rating behind it. Now, this video isn't really a how to fix PvP and gearings thing, it's rather how to make it easier for alts to be able to catch up to where our main is. And if you didn't have to go through different ranks of gear and you just have one honor set, it'll make getting honor gear and grinding that far easier. If you had one conquest set, also that would make it far easier for any of our alt characters. Just want to jump into PvP, you know exactly how much conquest and honor you need in order to get yourself a set. There's even ideas of maybe having this honor gear and conquest gear be only 10 item levels apart, so if you do want to play the game casually, you don't have to feel like you're completely behind. But if you do want to grind sweaty in the arenas for that rating, you will gain like a 10 item level advantage, which is an advantage regardless. A lot of us play our alts casually, not everybody plays it like a second main, so I thought I should add this as an idea because it is pretty popular in the forums. But if this were to happen, gearing an alt character for PvP with a specific set of gear and specific amount of resources you need would generally be far easier. Finally, we have Legendaries and Torghast. However, a lot of the alt friendliness for Legos and Legendary acquisition, as well as how we do our Torghast runs, is getting improved in patch 9.1.5. However, there are ways that they can improve it even further. I think by allowing Soul Cinders and Soul Ash to be earned from other content outside of Torghast, like dungeons, raids, PvP, World Quest, it would give a lot more players an opportunity to be able to acquire those legendaries easier. Because the way the Torghast is set up for a fresh new alt character, especially when you don't have a lot of gear, it could be a bit of a long grind. It's a pretty long prerequisite. You could either try for a layer 12 difficulty of Torghast, which is quite difficult. For a fresh new character, it actually might be impossible, but it gives you the most amount of ash as well as cinders in a single run. Or you could just do a billion runs in layer 9 or in layer 5, which are far easier, but you're going to have to do a lot more of them. By allowing players to be able to earn Soul Ash and Soul Cinders through other content, it will hopefully speed up the legendary acquisition by getting the gear as well as the currency that you need a little bit faster through other means, which are a lot more accessible and are far easier for an old character to explore and attempt rather than just diving straight into Torghast. But that's going to be my video on some of the ways that I think you could change the systems and some of the different aspects of the game that are kind of not alt friendly in terms of being able to catch up to where our main is, and how you can modify some of these aspects in order to make it an easier time for our alts to be able to catch up to where our mains are. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts, what you think about this video, or what you think about some of these ideas, whether you like them, whether you don't. Thank you all, and I'll see all of you in the next one.